Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to go into depth a little bit more on the Rcbs three-way cutters. I'm going to do step by step on how to do it. When you buy one, it's going to come in a case like this. You're going to have instructions. You're going to get the cutter, and you'll have two different Allen wrenches. The Allen wrenches, let's see offhand, I believe it's a 16th and a 5/32 is what you will get. Your cutter will come together like this. You're going to have the parts on the cutters. You're going to have the cutter body. You're going to have the adjuster thumb screw for the outer deburr cutter tool, which is that part. You're going to have the actual cutter itself, and the pilot, which also has the chamfering cutter ears on it. On the inside, it's a hollow body, and there'll be a set screw there, which is your adjustment for the in and out for the pilot. A set screw on the cutter itself, which locks your pilot in place. Set screw here, which locks your deburr cutter in place. When first starting this, you'll want to unloosen your set screw, and since we're unloosening that, I'm going to go over when you have these cutters set up, make sure that your set screw is going to be somewhere on one of these two sides of the bottom. You'll see that this has to be kind of clocked a little bit because of the cutter heads. So you don't want that set screw up in here where you can't get to, and you'll see why a little bit later. So you'll want to unloosen that, and then that set screw that's in the bottom there, you can see if I move it out, you can see it start to move out. What you want to make sure is that's backed off all the way so this pilot is seated all the way down. When that pilot is seated all the way down, those chamfer cutters are not doing anything. Once you know it's all the way down, just lightly snug it, lock it in place. Unloosen your outside deburring cutter. You want to back that out. You want to make sure it's backed out enough that it's not doing any deburring. We are going to do this in 3 steps, but each step separately. First thing you want to do, and I would suggest doing this all on a manual one. I have electric one that I use, but it's a lot easier to do it on a manual one. The things that you're going to need, I would get you an eye loop, a magnifying glass, or one of those headband magnifiers, some sort of measuring like calipers to measure your case length. First step you want to do, which I've already done, and that is come in here, like I said, with that set back this up, is you want to do the first step is getting the length of your case, get your stop set, get that part all done. When you're done with that, you'll have your standard case. Of course, it's cut to length. You'll feel the burrs on the outside, and of course you'll feel them with the inside with using like a pick or something. From that stage, you're going to want to pull this back off, and you have to do it every time. Is you got to unloosen your set screw for the pilot only. And then you got to run this out. And what I do is you start off with the process where it's seated all the way down flat, all the way to the base. It's all about feel. You feel where that set screw is just now starting to touch that. You want to move it out just a little bit. This is a process that's going to take you It could be 2 times, could be 3 times, could be 4, could be more. This is where people get impatient and they start trying to rush it and they can't get things set up right. Once you move it out a little bit, run your process a few times, take your eye loop, magnifying glass, whatever it is, and inspect it real close. As I can see here, it hasn't done anything. Hold on a second, I'm just cleaning off my lens here on that. So it hasn't done anything, so what I need to do, put my case back in. This is where you got to pull the cutter back off. Loosen your set screw. Use your adjuster screw and just also slightly. You can see I didn't move it a whole lot. I do it in small increments because you want to take just enough off to just start taking that burr. You don't want to over chamfer it. Run it, check it again with your magnifier glass. Still isn't enough. Repeat the process. I always kind of keep my finger pushing down on it. That way, because when this is, all that adjuster screw is to push it out. Because otherwise you can see it just, so that's why I kind of keep my finger on it, keep it pushed down when I'm setting it. Put the cutter back in. Run it around a few times. And then check it. It's just starting to deburr the inside. So I need to pull this back off. Now that I know that I'm just starting to cut, I know I'm going to go a lot less increments or a lot less movement. Inspect it again, and it actually looks really good. Now it's kind of hard to explain. Maybe I can kind of, I don't know if I can draw this out. I'm not no artist. So if you have your case and say this is the wall thickness and you're chamfering the inside, when that chamfers, you should only chamfer so much out of this material from here to the edge of that chamfer edge. You should have at least about 3/4 of that material thickness, because that way when you're deburring the outside and you're taking off, that way you have technically a flat spot here in the middle. You don't want to over chamfer and deburr it, because otherwise you'll create a knife edge. That's what you don't want, and that's where I think a lot of people have problems with. When I get done showing or doing all this, I'm going to see if I can try to get it to focus into the camera. But once you get that done, what I do is I pull this back off. You don't have to. I just pull it off easier, but I just kind of re-snug this, make sure it's snug. It's not going to move anymore. That's all I'm doing that for. You can do it in here as well on the cutter. Just spin it around, do the same thing. Now the next step is now we're going to do the deburring of the outside. To do the outside, your set screw is in the front here. I run this in and I'll run this down so it just touches the case. Then you need to back it off a little bit. And remember, there's a little bit of a play between the thumb screw and the thumb screw slot. So the thumb screw is gonna, so when you bottom it down to the case and you back off, there's a few rotations before it actually touches that top of that slot. So remember that when you're backing that off a little bit. So I just back it off a little bit, just so you start off not actually doing a lot of cutting. Come in here, just snug it down, come in here, rotate a few times, take it back out, check it with your magnifier. So there, I am not getting any cut. Again, this is a process that could take you a few different times. The only difference here is you don't have to take it off to make the adjustments. So that adjustment there just started to cut. So now I know that this next adjustment, I got to be very subtle on my adjustment. Now if you screw up on any of these processes, like on the first process you overcut the inside, just unloosen this one, the set screw, and back it off a little bit and start with a new case and run your case and go from there and continue on. Same with this one. If you end up deburring the outside too much, back it off a little bit, put a new case in there and start there, because you already got the length set up. Then by then you already have the inside chamfer set up. Then you just, all you're doing is just redoing your outside. Now I'm going to run this a few times, check if I turned it enough in, and still not quite enough, so I got to do it again. Oops. As you can see, I'm not overdoing the turns on them, because it's easier just to take your time, and I think that's where a lot of people fail on setting these up. It's just rushing it. This is not a rush thing. It's basically take your time, set it up. Once you set it up, that is so close. I barely moved it there. That is and you can always double check too, but I would check it with your eye loop or magnifier. So that's actually pretty darn good right there. Let's see if I can get zoomed in here. Let's see if I can get that. Just using this black background to see if it'll help it focus. As you can see, you got the inside chamfer there, and you got the outside chamfer. Let's see if I can show the flats on the top. I'm not sure if I can get that to focus or not. This is the hardest part, is trying to get the camera to focus. Let's see if I can use my eye loop. Nope. I don't know if you can see that on camera. I can't see it on, but there should have a little bit of flat on the top, a slight chamfer on the outside, or the burr on the outside, a slight chamfer on the inside. All you're doing is just adjusting enough just to take the burr off. That's all you need, and you don't want it where it's sharp up the top here. You don't want that knife edge. You just want what I basically call butter knife edge. So let me zoom back out. So once you got that done, take a brand new case. Remember to do all your cases sized. Come in, take a brand new case that you got sized, and just do the whole, where it does the whole process now, and then do your final inspection. Take your eye loop, take calipers or whatever, case gauge, whatever you're using for your, and everything. Check all your measurements on the length, and check your deburrs, and that's one. It's all been done. That's my, no burrs on the outside and on the inside, and that's all it is. That's it. Simple enough. Kind of go back on these cutters. They sell them as basically, like this one's a 6.5. This isn't actually a second 6.5 I got. I bought this one for really cheap. It was brand new, bought it cheap. Only difference is between all these cutters is all the same parts except the pilot. I'm actually going to buy actually an 8mm pilot. I already have a 30 caliber. So I'm going to actually replace this with an 8mm and set up for 8mm. I already have one actually technically set up for a 6.5. So if you don't want to buy different cutters, you can buy just the pilots and set them up every time you use them. Me personally, I know they're kind of expensive, but I prefer to have it all set up per bullet caliber size, and that's the way I'm going to do it. Just to make sure you're using a size case doing this. With the 30 caliber, which I've noticed even like on their regular cutter, the pilots always seem to be a little bit big. I've actually modified just on the regular cutter. I've actually machined it down a little bit because it seems like when you size a 30 caliber, it doesn't seem to slide over. I'm not using any special expanders or anything like that to, you know, for more bolt tension or anything like that. And it seemed like it was the same with this, which there is a way to modify these. I'm not going to show it there, but if it's something of interest, I mean, I could make a video on it, but just to warn you, anytime you do any modification on this stuff, it's going to void your warranty. So when you do it, you're kind of doing it at your own risk. I would suggest not doing it if you don't have a lathe or any type of, you know, mechanical background on top of it. So I hope this video helped you out, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thanks for stopping by.